welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Football Chalk Talk. I'm your host right here on the Bayou Bengal Fantasy Network. Today, we're going over some deep sleepers. Now, these are guys that you could probably get it towards the end of your draft, somewhere that people aren't really thinking about. They may not be on people's radars yet, but we want to get out there and we want to kind of open your mind to some players that you can possibly put on your target list that could help you down the line when things are ready to rock and roll and you need somebody for either a bye week fill in or once you start going on your playoff push, you're able to then find these kind of guys to give you some type of boost going towards your playoffs. You got to remember that on this channel, our ultimate goal is to win a championship, and that's what you can do starting right now in the off season. A lot of people wait to do all their research later on towards August or midway through, maybe even a little earlier than that, to prep for their league. But the ones that are here right now that are doing all of their motivation, all their research, everything in there, these are the ones that are going to be best prepared to take down a fantasy championship when the time comes. Now we're going to break down everything between the quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers, and the tight ends. I have three players in every single position that I believe could be a deep sleeper for you. Obviously, none of these guys are guaranteed hits, but these are guys that I feel really good going into this season that they can kind of shock some people. And I know a lot of people may not think that some of these players could be viable, but if you hear me out, I have an explanation for why I believe each of these characters could be something for you for the 20. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in quarterbacks. The first thing we're going to do is talk about these quarterbacks for deep sleepers. And the first guy I'm going to talk about is Matthew Stafford. Now, Stafford missed the last 7 games last season. He had a spinal cord contusion. He actually started out pretty good. He had some up and down games towards the middle of the season, but at the very beginning, he was on fire. Now, coming into this season, he's going to have his main guys, Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson, on the outsides. He's got Cam Akers and Tyler Higbee as well. So he's got some players around him. He still has a pretty solid defense, even though the defense isn't really what it was maybe a couple years ago with the Jalen Ramseys and stuff, but it's still a really solid defense. And they're playing in a division that they can still compete in. The Rams is a good team, and Matthew Stafford could be somebody who's throwing up 300 yards each and every week, or each and every week, each and every game, to give you those numbers that people aren't going to really look at him. You can grab Matthew Stafford towards the end of the draft, and he could end up being your starter going into the playoffs. I mean, he could be back to his 2021 form, where he was just throwing down a lot of 300-yard games, and we saw it a couple times last year looking at it. So he just has his weapons all over the field. He still has people that he can throw to. They don't have the Odell Beckham anymore at all, but Van Jefferson is a very viable wide receiver for him. We have to remember what Van Jefferson can actually do. He could be a deep threat for you. And Cooper Kupp coming off of an injury, I believe Cooper Kupp could still be somebody that's going to be zigging and zagging and be a top wide receiver in this league. And Matthew Stafford's probably going to give it one more good year to see if he can solidify himself a championship this year. So I think Matthew Stafford would be a very good lock for a deep sleeper quarterback for your fantasy team. Now we go over to the next guy. We're going to talk about Brock Purdy. Now, Brock Purdy kind of took the league by storm. He was Mr. Irrelevant. Nobody thought he was really going to do anything. It was Trey Lance's team. So Trey Lance ends up getting hurt. They move over to Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo ends up getting hurt. Well, now they got this guy, Mr. Irrelevant, last pick of the draft coming in, Brock Purdy, and he did nothing but show out. Brock Purdy should be able to take over this job once he becomes healthy. I don't know if he's going to be able to start the season as the starter. It's either going to be Sam Darnold or Trey Lance. He's healthy, but he earned his opportunity. He kind of earned his stripes last year. And I think that Brock Purdy will be a viable fantasy quarterback for you, especially if he's throwing those 2 touchdowns per game. That's what he averaged. So he's already back at practice. He's already starting to throw and he's starting to run. So that's really good for his outlook. I think he's going to be ready maybe by game 3, game 4, but early on in the season, he should be able to take over as a starter. And by the time it ramps up to midseason in your playoff push, Brock Purdy should be knocking down on all cylinders. Like I said, Trey Lance and Sam Darnold, as of right now, are splitting those first team reps. They're probably going to get the first crack at the starting job if Brock Purdy is not available. He had 2 touchdowns in 7 out of the 8 games starting last season, including the first 2 playoff games. So he not only did it during the regular season, but he also did it to the playoffs when it really mattered. This dude has some ice in his veins, and he was throwing like there's no tomorrow. I mean, he's got plenty of weapons. We're talking about Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. He's got weapons all over the field, and he's got just an overall good team. I mean, he's got a team that possibly could win the division, and he's got a team that could land the number one seed in the NFC going into the playoffs, securing himself a bye week. So it's one of those things. If you look at it and you draft Brock Purdy, he's pretty much going relatively undrafted, and he's somebody that can give you some very, very good type of games if your quarterback goes down late. I'm not saying draft Brock Purdy as your starting quarterback going in the season, but maybe grabbing him as your QB2 or your QB3 and just sit him on the bench, because you never know what happens in fantasy football. If you start out with Lamar Jackson, you may want to grab somebody like Brock Purdy to give you a little bit of insurance, because we know the injury history of somebody like Lamar Jackson. So I would say just keep him on your bench. He's somebody that you can probably look forward to, somebody that can give you some valuable type of starts for your fantasy team in 2023, which makes him a deep sleeper. Now, the last quarterback we're going to go over here, and I'm going to say Taylor Heinicke. I always get that name mixed up, but Taylor Heinicke. He moved over from the Commanders, went over to the Falcons, and now Desmond Ridder is the starting quarterback right now. But if Ridder struggles, we could have Heinicke step in. I think there's a high chance of Ridder struggling. I mean, he didn't look the best last season to me. Taylor Heinicke's shown that he can be a good starting quarterback in the NFL, and given the opportunity with the weapons that he has, with the Drake Londons and the Kyle Pitts, and then they just drafted Bijan Robinson, he's got weapons to make some noise. It's way better weapons than what he had when he played with the Commanders. So given the opportunity, Taylor Heinicke can be a solid quarterback in the NFL. Very serviceable for a quarterback in the 9 games that he started last year. So he's had relative starts, relatively soon here in the NFL. Like he's not somebody that's been sitting on the bench forever. He's been playing, and every time he steps into the game, he's able to produce some numbers. Now they're not top tier fantasy quarterback numbers, but like I said, even if you drafted somebody like a Lamar Jackson, somebody took Brock Purdy, grab Taylor Heinicke. You never know what's going to happen in the NFL, and if he takes over and is the number one quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, there's plenty of opportunities for him to give you a lot of fantasy points, because they're going to be in a negative game script for the most part. I mean, you can get him relatively completely free. Almost, I mean, he's being undrafted in most people's leagues. He's being completely undrafted, so you can get him almost completely free, and he's somebody that could put up some solid points for you if given the opportunity in 2023, and definitely list him as the last quarterback as a deep sleeper in 2023 for my list. Now, let's move over to the running back position. Talk about 3 deep sleepers that we have here. The first guy I'm going to talk about is Damien Harris. Now, he's walking into the season trying to split carries with James Cook. Now, as of this recording, or as of this live stream, there are rumors of Dalvin Cook possibly going to the Buffalo Bills to play with his brother. We don't know about that as of right now, but let's just talk as if Dalvin Cook is not a part of the team. James Cook, I just don't see the potential in him as of right now to be a full 3-down back. Damien Harris, the reason why the Buffalo Bills got him is because Damien Harris played against Buffalo Bills twice a year before, and he was torching the Buffalo Bills. So now that Damien Harris could be a good bell cow type of back. He's coming from Alabama. He's got good running pedigree behind him, and he can tote the rock. So you could see Damien Harris, go down on the early downs, maybe a first and second down. James Cook really being on a special time, fourth quarter, or just like a third down type of back. Damien Harris could be also the goal line back for the ball club. So he should have plenty of opportunities right here. You have Harris is 5'10", 216 pounds. Cook's 5'11", 199. So Cook is under 200 pounds. Normally when you see these running backs that are under 200 pounds, they really don't perform the way you want them to. Damien Harris is almost 20 pounds more than what James Cook is. So, Mills, good to see you, bro. Good to see you. Appreciate you, man. But yeah, like I was saying, Damien Harris, he's got the body to sit there and to take these goal line carries away from James Cook. And we could slowly but surely see towards the end of the season, Damien Harris be having more of an opportunity than James. So the next guy that I want to talk about here is going to be Tank Bigsby. Now, they drafted him. He was out of Auburn. He's coming over to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think he's going to take a lot of opportunities away from Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne, if we look at it last season, he only received 55% of the snaps in 8 out of the 17 games that he played. I mean, Bigsby has all the goal line opportunities here. They're not going to put Travis Etienne on the goal. You've seen people like Jermichael Hasty and things like that last season splitting time with Etienne. I think Tank Bigsby's way better than these guys. So Tank Bigsby's going to have this opportunity, and even though they're buddies, you Travis Etienne and you have Trevor Lawrence, I think Tank Bigsby's going to come in here and he's going to show out. He's going to be somebody who's had plenty of opportunities. They're going to be winning a lot of ball games, and if they're trying to run the ball in the fourth quarter, run the game out, they're probably going to hand the ball off to a much bigger back. He's over 6 foot tall. They're going to give him the ball a lot. They're going to run out the football, run out the clock. So they're on a very good winning team. So that always says he has a positive game script. That means they're going to be winning tons of games, and that's where you want to get your running backs. I always tell people, go to get your wide receivers at those bad teams. Go get your running backs at the good teams. And Tank Bigsby just so happened got drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they're not your old Jacksonville Jaguars anymore. They're actually a good team. So you're going to see Tank Bigsby probably step up, be a really good opportunity to take a lot of points away from Travis Etienne, and that could benefit you when you can grab Tank Bigsby towards the end of your draft, and now you got somebody you can play in either your flex, maybe a bye week type of fill in. Maybe he gets you a touchdown or two in that week. Somebody you might want to definitely keep on your radar. Now, the last guy we're going to talk about here as a deep sleeper is going to be Antonio Gibson. Now, we have to remember, J.D. McKissic is now gone. It opens up 40 targets in the whole season that J.D. McKissic played. He played in 8 games, the first 8 games, and then he got hurt. So he ended up in those first 8 games having 40 targets. You add those 40 targets over to Antonio Gibson, he's looking at a 100 target season. So it's to the point to where Antonio Gibson has the opportunity to actually be way better than what we think. Yeah, Robinson is going to be the guy right now, but that's okay because Gibson's going to come in on third down. He's really the pass catching back. Robinson didn't catch anything last. So when they're third down or they're losing, which could be possible with the Sam Howell now being the starting quarterback for the Commanders, you can definitely see Antonio Gibson getting more opportunity out of the backfield, and should be getting you a lot more points from what I understand. So he definitely saw a larger snap share. 6 out of the 11 games when we saw both Gibson and Robinson on the field, Antonio Gibson actually had more snaps than Robinson. So now that we're going to have a full season of now that J.D. McKissic is gone, you're probably going to see an opportunity to where you start seeing Gibson on the field a lot more, and more time on the field means more opportunity to be a solid fantasy producer for your team. Antonio Gibson's going anywhere between the middle to later rounds. Somebody you can definitely put on your radar. Somebody you could throw on your bench as maybe your 4th running back or so. But he definitely could be a bye week fill-in, and he has the opportunity that when it comes to playoff time, Antonio Gibson could be in your lineup at least as a flex. So let's go ahead and move over to the wide receiver position. And the first guy that I want to talk about here as the deep sleeper in wide receivers is Kadarius Toney. Now, he was a first-round pick in 2021. He's only 24 years old, still a young type of guy. He could be the number 1 wide receiver for Mahomes. I'm not really sold on MVS as of right now being the number 1 guy. Kadarius Toney, he's lights out. The dude's got speed. He ran a 4.39 in college. He was doing very, very well. And he could be the vertical threat for this opportunity of a Patrick Mahomes who has a cannon for an arm. So I really like the opportunity that Toney has. If he can stay healthy, he could be solid. I mean, you have MVS, Sky Moore, and the rookie that they drafted from SMU, Rashee Rice. Those are the only competitions for Kadarius Toney. He can beat out all of these guys, and he's somebody that you, like I said, you can get towards the later of your draft. He's somebody you can put in as your wide receiver 3 or even a flex spot, and he can really be producing for you for fantasy playoffs. I mean, think about having the number 1 target for Patrick Mahomes other than Travis Kelce. I mean, that you ain't got to sell me no more on that. I think Kadarius Toney is a perfect deep sleeper for 23. So, moving right along, I'm going to go with the rookie A.T. Perry with the New Orleans Saints. I mean, he's really just giving off these Marcus Colston type of vibes for me. Marcus Colston, he was a 6th round Marcus Colston was a 7th round pick. A.T. Perry was a 6th round pick out of Wake Forest. So he's tall and lanky. I think he's like 6'3", 200 pounds. He's a good receiver with solid hands. He's got one of the best hands in camp so far. He did great in college. He's good at contesting the catch. Now, he doesn't have much separation, even though he has a 4.47 speed. That's a little bit slower than what you'd probably like for a wide receiver, but his big frame kind of makes up for it. He can jump. He can get the ball and make these kind of contested catches. You got Michael Thomas and Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed in front of him. I think Rashid Shaheed, he's going to definitely take over. He won't take over Chris Olave. Chris Olave is definitely the number one wide receiver for this offense, but Michael Thomas may not be there after this season, and he may not be there towards the middle of the season. So that means towards your playoffs, you could have a wide receiver, a 6'3" wide receiver in A.T. Perry, who has solid hands. All he needs is the opportunity. I think he can get the opportunity with the New Orleans Saints to be a solid player and definitely the absolute category of a deep sleeper wide receiver in 2023. He's another one that's completely free. He's being completely undrafted right now, especially if you're playing or you're drafted in best ball leagues right now. This is the guy you might want to target with your very last pick of the draft. I really like what he's able to produce. Wake Forest, he was an absolute monster, and I think he will be a monster for the New Orleans Saints. Now, the last wide receiver we're going to talk about today as a deep sleeper, we're going to be talking about John Metchie. Now, John Metchie, he was a second-round pick out of Alabama. He played phenomenal when he was. There's Robert Woods and Nico Collins, Noah Brown, Nathaniel Dell, Xavier Hutchinson. There's a lot of receivers there. The actual receiving room is very crowded, but I think Metchie has the talent to kind of separate himself from a lot of these players in the league. And he ended up missing his rookie season due to a diagnosis of leukemia. Now he's done kind of over conquered that. Now he's back at practice. He's doing things. There's opportunity here for Metchie, and he could definitely carve out a solid role for a team that's kind of struggling for playmakers right now. There's not a lot around him. There's a rookie quarterback right now in CJ Stroud. We've got Dameon Pierce as the running back and a plethora of wide receivers. Most of them are extremely young, except for Robert Woods. So Nico Collins could be the number one wide receiver. Robert Woods could be the number one wide receiver. Metchie could be the number one wide receiver. You don't really know, but I think it's worth taking a stab on somebody that you could possibly be the number one target for a team that has to throw the ball early and often. I do a lot worse than having John Metchie team. I think his ADP is kind of rising a little bit. People are kind of catching on to John Metchie's talent. They're starting to remember why he was drafted in the second round so high last season. And just because he missed a whole season because he was diagnosed with leukemia doesn't mean that he doesn't know how to play football anymore. So he's definitely a good target for you to hit for the end of the drafts. And you never know what you end up with. It could be kind of a diamond in a rough situation. So we're going to go ahead and move over to the last position here. We're going to talk about the tight end position sleepers of 2023. And the first guy we're going to talk about is Greg Dulcich. Now, Dulcich shown some nice flashes as a rookie. I mean, he's got great hands, great kind of route running ability. He's a big 6'4", 248-pound type of tight end. He made some good plays, especially on his first game of his NFL career, scoring a touchdown. He did phenomenal. Now we got Sean Payton coming over there. He's going to be bringing the best out of Russell Wilson. It's going to bode very, very well for Dulcich. They had Okwekbunam there. They thought he was going to take some catches away from him. I don't think so. They got Adam Troutman they signed over here from the New Orleans Saints. I don't think he's going to be much of a threat. Sean Payton loves Greg Dulcich. I think he showed some things in camp, kind of showing out a little bit. And I think he's going to have all the opportunity in the world to shine. As we know with all of these tight ends, you can get any of these tight ends into the top 5 because there's not a lot of solid tight ends. I mean, you're talking Travis Kelce and you're talking Mark Andrews. That's pretty much it. I mean, you have George Kittle. He's one of those guys that if he can stay healthy, I could put him in the top 3, but we don't know if he's going to stay healthy or not. So it's very easy to creep into the 5. I think Greg Dulcich has an amazing opportunity to slip into the top 5, and you can get him towards your towards the end of the NFL drafts. I'm telling you, you're going to be surprised if you did. Now, the next guy we're going to talk about here is going to be Juwan Johnson. He gets a huge upgrade, in my opinion, at quarterback with Derek Carr. He had Jameis Winston. He had Andy Dalton last year. Now he's got somebody who has proven to be able to pass the tight end position, whether it be Darren Waller in Raiders or Foster Moreau. Either way, now he's going to get an upgrade. And I mean, Juwan Johnson's a big dude. He's a big red zone threat, a big guy that can just get up there and catch the ball for you. He's somebody you can slip in for your bye weeks or even a flex play if you're in trouble and need somebody to play. Juwan Johnson can easily go out there and catch you 2 touchdowns in any given week. He's got the talent. There's plenty of opportunity now that Adam Troutman is now gone. Foster Moreau may end up missing this entire season. We're really not sure if he's going to play yet because of his diagnosis, but I think Juwan Johnson's got all the opportunity and all the talent in the world to be a solid fantasy player for you, especially a sleeper in 2023. The Saints offense should be able to put up a lot of points. They're in a division where there's 3 other teams there that's really not that good. So if you look at all of it, I think Juwan Johnson in a package could be one of the biggest sleepers in tight end in a long time because he's got everything there. They've got the opportunity. There's not anybody really behind them. They're going to be throwing the ball quite a bit. They're playing against a lot of bad defenses, and they have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. Do yourself a favor, take a stab at Juwan Johnson as a deep sleeper in 2023. So let's move on to the last tight end that I have here as a deep sleeper. We're going to be talking about Hayden Hurst now. Hurst moves over from the Bengals over to the Panthers, and he signed a 3-year contract, and he's going to be the #1 tight end for this offense. There is no competition for another tight end there. It's going to be Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst was able to prove that he belongs in the NFL and he can produce at a high level. They do have the rookie quarterback in here and Young, but he's going to be the safety blanket for Bryce Young. I love drafting tight ends for rookie quarterbacks for that reason. The rookie quarterback sometimes may not be able to read the field as fast as a veteran quarterback, but you're going to be seeing somebody like Hayden Hurst kind of show out. You know, he's going to be on the field early and often, quite a bit, catching these balls for this rookie quarterback. I mean, he's going to see plenty of passing volume. I mean, let's just face it, the Panthers aren't very good, so they're going to be able to play a lot of teams. They're going to be playing from behind. They're going to be throwing the ball all over the field quite a bit. And that's the kind of thing you want. You want those wide receivers. You want those tight ends playing for those teams that really don't have it in there. You want to see the volume. And I think Hayden Hurst is an amazing deep sleeper for 2020. So we're going to end on that, guys. I really appreciate you being here. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do yourself a favor. Go ahead and subscribe. Next week, we're going to be talking about the league winning players. We're going to be live every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. These players that we have coming on next week, I'm telling you, you won't want to miss it out. There's some great players that I'm going to be talking about that could win you a league. Some players that you actually want to target and to be there. Again, this channel here at the Bayou Bengal Fantasy Network, our main goal is to get you to win a championship in your league. And if you're already doing research for that right now, kudos to you, because that's what you need to do to be successful in fantasy football. Now, what I want to say is I appreciate you guys for being here. I can't wait to see you guys on the next video. See you guys next time.
Tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away. As you fade away. Like nothing I found, my mind overwhelmed.